good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. Let's give 1 or 2 more moments for all the participants to log in, and then we get to start. And yeah, while we are waiting for the rest of the participants to log in, if you feel like it, please feel welcome to introduce yourself in the chat box. And if any time throughout this webinar you have any questions or anything you would like to ask our speaker today, feel free to use the Q&A function. It's on the bottom of the screen, and then you can ask your questions and we will pick them up on the way. So this is your opportunity to get answers to your questions. Okay, I think we are ready to start. One more time, welcome to this webinar about smart waste measuring. We have our speaker here today, Renata Hartle, the founder of WasteTracker. Thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your expertise with our audience. Would you just like to start by introducing yourself, who you are and what you do?
Hi everyone, I'm Renata, and yes, I'm a co-founder of WasteTracker. I've been working many years in innovation field for real estate. I was a consultant for big landlords who own office towers, shopping malls, and help them put technology solutions in buildings. And after hard work, I found that they have a challenge of measuring one part of ESG, which is waste. And I started to work with it. And in March this year, I found a company, and I basically quit my consultancy job, and I'm building now the new thing.
Great, thank you. So this is her background, and any questions you have for her throughout the webinar, the Q&A function is on the bottom, so we can go from there. So I think we can start from setting up the scene. So could you please start by explaining like why are we even talking about waste tracking or smart waste measurement?
Mm-hmm. You know, for quite some years, sustainability is a big subject for commercial real estate and for wider businesses. And lots of things started to be measured more precisely. But if we look at the history, like energy meters, water meters, gas meters, they exist for over 100 years. And I often say that, you know, if you don't measure something, you really cannot manage it. It's just like, imagine driving a car and trying to be safe on the road, trying to save petrol. If you don't have dashboard in your car as you're driving, showing you that maybe you're burning too much liters per kilometer right now, you won't take your foot from the gas pedal. Yeah, and if we don't really understand our waste production, we cannot work on it, because many companies and many buildings are trying to do some estimations, and these estimations are so unclear on how many kilograms of what type of waste you produce that until you really measure, you can really select what you can do further on. And waste is part of ESG reporting. For some companies, it's scope 3. In some companies, it's scope 1. In some, maybe even scope 2. But more and more businesses, people, companies started to really care and are asking for such data.
Great, thank you. And we're very much very well aligned with WasteTracker here, because everything we do at the MiZA Academy is based on data and actually measuring the impact of our actions. And without having the baseline, having the measurement, it's not easy, or it's even impossible to know if you're moving backwards or forwards. And that's why we are very happy to have WasteTracker as our partner, and yeah, working with your solution and helping our customers, because I think it's a very important part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. You know, I will tell you a short story. I was working on this big office tower in Warsaw, and I was helping them introduce different technologies. And I was reviewing the processes they have in terms of property management. And property manager showed that she has big Excel files for energy consumption. She gets this data from BMS system where she has smart metering for energy, for heat, for water. And she's doing this like calculation for each occupier of the building so they can understand their own consumption and sources of that. So for example, do I use energy to heat up my office space or to cool it off or for lighting system and so on? And that was extremely advanced and extremely smart. And then she showed me her waste Excel file, and she said that a security personnel takes notes of how many big beans are taken out from the building. She does the average calculation of how many kilograms that big bean could have. And then she divides it per each occupier of the building based on the size of the office space they have. So in that office tower, there was a huge consulting company occupying half of the building, and half of the all estimated waste was for them. So they were getting this reporting, and this big company said, we appreciate that you're trying to do some calculations, but we're also trying to implement different strategies to reduce waste, and we don't have any knowledge back if they are working. Also, there is a big restaurant in the building, and we're basically getting 50% of estimated food waste that comes from this restaurant, and we report it as part of our ESG. We need to do something to measure it more accurately. And that was my moment of awakening, and I started to look in Europe for different solutions that could help us implement something like this, because I didn't have in plan to start WasteTracker. I had in plan to help my clients digitalize this part. And it was really difficult to find anything that would actually provide from the beginning to the end solution of how to register production of waste, measure it, and understand the source.
Great, great examples of like very important ways. Have you identified any other challenges that you know that real estate, hospitality, maybe even cities are facing waste issues or waste challenges today?
So there is definitely lack of education. When we were designing the system, one of the biggest challenge that we saw is that every city, every municipality, sometimes even neighborhood in big cities like London, may have different standards for segregation of waste and for describing what should go where. So people are still very confused. Should I wash my plastic container that I put to plastic? Can I put dirty paper into paper? Is it better if I'm not sure to put something to mix or actually to the recycle part? So that is something that definitely will require lots of work from all of us to educate the market. But also they are blind on understanding that it's not the main problem, that segregation is the last possible thing that can save us, but we should start from actually reducing. And there is no source for especially big business to understand what they can do to reduce waste. What are the good practices from other companies? And because no one was measuring it, what results do you get? What results do you get by eliminating plastic water in plastic bottles in company meetings? What's the influence of that? Yeah, how much exactly? So I think it's very important to start with measuring and then being able to manage those actions. Another challenge that I see is that no one understands what happened after, and I don't have answers for that, but no company really understand where is my waste going. Does someone make money on it? Is it going to landfill? Is the recycling of the paper that I give like on a high level, or I should do something else to change it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem I think all of us face and we work towards every day, that have a bit more transparency, that to ensure that what we are doing is the right thing, and we also have the responsible partner at the next stage to manage the waste.
Yes.
in a sustainable manner.
But I think it opens an opportunity for actually providing those audits for buildings or for businesses to understand what happens with the waste, and if the waste collection company delivers on the promise that they preach when they sell their services.
Good. I think you have prepared a short video for us. I think now would be the right time to show WasteTracker and yeah, what's there.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly show, to not have the, you can play the video, to not talk dry, but to show how WasteTracker is built as a device, because one of the challenge I saw is that there is no real device that can register waste. So we built a registration terminal, which is installed in waste room of commercial buildings. It has a stainless steel weighing platform, 80 by 80 centimeters, a tablet, and an access reader. Access reader is to understand who's bringing waste and for companies not to worry that someone's registering waste in their name while they are not allowed. So when a waste is brought to the waste room, a person that brought it taps their card, we recognize the company or the source of the waste, and they only basically select which type of waste stream is on the scale. So when you have plastic and metal, you click yellow. Oh, you made a mistake, you can cancel, and then you put yellow, yeah? And there's big yellow screen confirming what you have just registered. To have an eye-hand coordination, you put to yellow bin. As we were studying how cleaning crews respond to our solution and what works, what doesn't, to make it simple for them, we understood that there are lots of immigrants working in cleaning personal jobs, and not necessarily they speak local language. So we decided to program language on the card. So if you are a speaker of any language, we register your card in your local language, and then as you tap the card, the tablet is in your language. Of course, all the color, the definition of waste type is manageable. So this can be changed building per building.
Yeah, and that sounds like such a smart way to help the user to do the right thing, because it's not only about like us having the motivation or the people having the motivation, but also them being able to do it, like you mentioned, language challenges or just knowledge of the different waste management system. It changes even in Europe from one country to the next quite a lot. So having this color coordination or just things in your own language, it's
yes. And you know, the law is also changing, so we don't know what will be in 2 years. And we tried all our best to design the system in a flexible way, meaning if metal and plastic are not together, we can separate them into different streams. If we add textile, for example, as a waste stream to be put separately, then we can do that. Yeah. And we see that, for example, in Czech Republic, commercial buildings, they separate Tetra Pak from plastic and metal. In Poland, it doesn't happen. Yeah, there are different rules for every country, and as we said, every city even.
Yeah, and we work on a lot on the municipal level, and we would wish that the municipalities would change their system to be, yeah, wider or better. So it can even change in a city and quite quickly as well for a business being present someplace and then completely different, just in the next town even. So having this flexibility sounds really good. So yeah, you have great technology. So how do you see the role of technology in data and how it has evolved in your view in the last years and how it's going to evolve in the future as well?
Kaisa, do you know what utility was first measured in the world? What type of utility measure was first invented?
I have no idea. Enlighten us all.
It was gas. It was in 1815 that the gas meter was invented, and the mission of this invention, or the driver for this invention, was to settle the billing between the gas company and the consumer. And many people think it was electricity, but you know, electricity came really to our homes at the beginning of the 20th century. But the electric meter was invented in 19th century. What is really interesting is that first gas meters in Poland, where I'm from, they had a slot mechanism. So you'd put a coin And after this coin was kind of finished, it would go down and your gas was not floating anymore. I wish our WasteTracker would have something like that. After you reach certain point, you're not allowed to put more waste. But generally, until we really know, we cannot do anything with it, as I said at the beginning. So technology of metering has evolved over the last 200 years rapidly. We started from simple meters that were measuring the flow by circulation. Now we have the ultrasonic meters that read the flow digitally, and they are smart because they're connected to building automation or to the wider system to provide data. And we see that it's very much involving going with ESG, because I see ESG, sustainability, zero waste, that's your goal. And technology is your tool to achieve it. And if we have smart metering in place, I see a huge evolve now in technological world on software that helps analyze this data and help benchmark and give insights. And that's exactly how I see WasteTracker. We not only help to register waste, but we help to have the full analytics of what are my daily, my monthly production, what's my split between different type of waste, and what I can do with it, and how is it compared to other companies. So if I'm a restaurant, how much do I produce per size of my restaurant? We use a per square meter or per square footage benchmark compared to other restaurants. And there's no way a pen and pencil can do this job. Yes, and we use technology for everything today. So it's really time to digitalize waste too.
Yeah. And I think previously there has been measuring around, but then there has not been a lot of like accountability or not a lot of pressure to do anything about it, but that it's changing and the policy is changing around it in the next coming years. So how do you see, what are the expectations in the intersection of waste management and ESG or other European directives that are coming?
So one of the biggest is definitely the CSRD, which influenced 50,000 companies from 2025 in Europe, 50,000 companies in Europe. And I really hope that the European Union is going to cascade it down to smaller and smaller companies, because now it's the biggest ones, the ones that own over a certain threshold of value in assets. They employ over 250 employees and generate over a certain amount of revenue. But we see that already companies that feel like second wave, they will have to report. They are preparing now. They want to use the time to learn. They are analyzing what is their starting point, what goals to declare. You probably know the Science-Based Targets organization. They show what targets big companies declared, and they help with defining those targets. But some companies got so excited and they were saying, we're going to be this by 2030. Yeah, they didn't even understand their starting point. They didn't know what they're comparing to. And some companies said, oh, compared to 2020, yeah, because that's where we started. 2020 was a COVID year. People were living in a different way, working in a different way, traveling in a different way. That's such a bad year to compare to. And if you're not working with the data analytics, it's probably challenging to understand this perspective. But I'm really glad that we're going through this transformation now, and we see that more and more big companies are investing in some kind of ESG software. So ESG software will help you gather data from different perspectives to report your carbon footprint, but also your social activities, your governance. And the market for technology on ESG on the business level is now worth over $80 million. Businesses are investing so much, they expect that their business partners, their real estate partners will be able to provide data in digital way. Yeah. So I think we're really moving towards integrations of systems and exchanging data left and right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the way forward. And even if the regulations are currently for the largest businesses, I think there will be a ripple effect because they need to report on their partners and their supply chain in a much more transparent way than before. And of course, there's the Clean Claims Directive coming, which is basically saying you can't make any kind of big claims if you don't have the data and the results verified to back them up. So,
and also your sources of data will be audited. Yeah, so it cannot come from like measuring, you know, the wind. It needs to be realistic, and it needs to show that you have a valid partner for it. And if you are, you know, imagine you're a head of real estate of Coca-Cola or Pepsi or any other big company that's worldwide. Like you don't want to have thousands of systems where you need to log in and check your electrical usage, your waste. You would prefer to have one system that's placed in different location and fits to this main ESG reporting tool. So I think, you know, there will be more targeted solutions that will be serving this purpose. And next years, we will see a huge growth of technology around ESG in general.
do you see some challenges that companies are, or even cities are facing at the moment with their data collection and data quality? Like, what would be the biggest challenges they have at the moment, and how to change it?
This is complicated, but maybe I will say it. There's something called data ontology. Data ontology is basically a language that systems use to define how data is structured on servers in the cloud, like how different devices are called and how to read different things. Because imagine you receive an Excel report of your waste production from 3 different countries, from 3 different locations where your business is, and you need to kind of consolidate it. One is in tons, one is in kilograms, one has plastic and metal together, another has metal and plastic separate. The conciliation of this data to a common report without making an error is really, really difficult. Yeah? And there are no clean answers on that, but data ontology is one of them. I don't think on the city level it's possible to even get to this discussion today, maybe in 5 years. But from commercial perspective, working with businesses where they have, faster decision-making powers, and they need to show a good example. So, yeah.
What would be then the opportunities there? Like, how can the organization leverage data to meet the targets? Like, do you have some nice examples of where they have gone from not even knowing what they're doing to having good results?
Yes, we have buildings that realized very hard that they are terrible in waste segregation. They have like 75% of mixed waste and only 25 in different streams. But also we see that buildings, some buildings realize that they have lots of bio waste, and they're ready to start a compost on site. And those are, like really tangible examples of like, okay, we have this amount, we need to focus on this. We have one building that has a huge amount of common space waste because people drive in, they empty their car of all the waste, they put it to the bin on their parking lot. This is not the waste that was produced there. It should, people should be accountable for their waste in a different way. So you learn from this data, and you can really take tangible actions. If, for example, one of our buildings decided to change the paper, how to call it, the machine that gives you individual paper towels to clean hands, because when you pulled, you would get 10 immediately. And of course, it was going all to waste. They didn't put that much attention to it until they saw how much mixed waste they produce for common spaces. Yeah? And decisions are way quicker when you have data backing it. So you can go to whoever gives money, whoever makes the budget, and say, this is the proof, this is the solution, this is what we plan. And then when you actually implement it, you can check what the change was, if you succeeded or not.
Yeah, great. Here in the background in the image, there is a screenshot of some of the insights you can get from WasteTracker. Could you explain a bit like what kind of information can you get out of WasteTracker and how to use it to your benefit?
So one of the things is that data in WasteTracker is structured for each location, and then within each location we have different occupiers or companies, shop that register the waste. Everyone who register waste has their own access to see their own data. So it's not that a building holds it and needs to share and prepare a report. Every company has direct access, and then building can see everything. So one of the things that we show is the total amount of waste produced, the average per day, how different days vary. Here we have a view on the last 30 days, and it will be, later a whole year, a quarter, however you choose. And we show the spread between different fractions of waste, different waste streams. One of the things that we're really working on is this benchmark, so to compare per square meter, and we want to do like a ranking. Because if we clearly see that there is one company that has way smaller level of waste than others, then it's worth to talk with them and learn what they're doing to reduce waste and go through that education to other occupiers or to other buildings with their example. Yeah. Of course, this is just a screenshot of one dashboard. We also have the measurement logs where we can see exactly what was logged at what time. So we can see at what time the waste is taken. We can see different like spread between tenants, the spread between fractions to understand, like, for example, on Tuesdays, we have lots of paper waste. Why? Why every Tuesday we have so much paper? Yeah. And to give those insights to analyze.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. And now if anybody from the audience has any questions about WasteTracker or the features, or you are wondering if this would produce the sort of data that you would need in your operations, great time to ask from the experts. So don't hesitate and drop your question in the Q&A function. And I think like this very personalized, accurate measuring, like before the waste goes into the bin, it's measured, it's very important. We have seen from some of our projects that the data or the measurements that you can get from the waste management company can be off by like several orders of magnitude, which doesn't help you at all improve your operations if like the data is so wildly inaccurate that you can't even make proper decisions about it. There's some questions from the audience. Do you think that it's possible to use the tool to engage with the community or create somehow a more shared sense of responsibility that the people would actually separate their waste?
Absolutely. I think we are talking about installing WasteTracker in student housing and in rental apartment buildings and create the gamification so you see if you're better or worse than neighbors. Do you destroy the planner more than guy that lives above you, or but also with like tips on how to actually do it and kind of knowledge on what to do well. There are some technological solutions that help. For example, show to the camera, I have this, where do I put it? But that requires quite a bit of investment in programming. But I think one of the things is that we really don't understand it in comparison. Like I get my electrical bill and I see the kilowatts and I see the sum. I don't understand, and I'm a technical person, of what that necessarily means. And now I installed the smart home solution in my home, and I see that my fridge consumes this amount of energy, my washing machine this. It shows me compared to the last cycle, did I save energy because I washed my clothes in a lower temperature, and things like that really need to happen around waste. Yeah? I don't think every individual today is ready for it, but for individuals, it has to kind of come from municipality. And coming to the other question that's on the Q&A, asking, my city runs waste management system that is not based on any data. What I mean is that nobody knows how much waste is being generated in the city. Given such situation, what can be a starting point towards gathering waste data? I think the best starting point is for municipality as the organization to start measuring their own data and their own waste. So every building that exists and it's like publicly owned could install potentially WasteTracker to understand what city is generating, and then look at the numbers from individual consumers and businesses. Because when you walk the talk, you're more true to what you're growing. And there are systems that also weigh the trucks. So for example, in the facility where waste is being processed, organized, and so on, they could have a scale built in the kind of driveway that verifies the weight of the truck, of the trash truck. The trash truck goes around, collects the waste from housing, comes in, check the weight, and then register, how much each truck brought. That's the easiest way to track in a big scale.
Great. And of course, like we have the whole Zero Waste Cities certification system that is basically guiding cities through these steps, and also like not only gather the data and do something about it, but how to design the effective strategies, be it on communications, capacity building, waste prevention policies, or recycling systems to improve the situation, because that's why we, in the end of the day, want the data to do better, because you can maybe assume that if they don't know what the waste situation is, it's probably not also excellent one either. And the same applies for also businesses. Like if the business doesn't know or has a very poor quality data, maybe relying on a waste management company that doesn't produce very good statistics, we have a system to improve that as well.
I'm searching for city data a lot and using different systems for that. Like Statista is one of the best from the European Commission. And sometimes I really feel that there is a mismatch of how this data is represented. So at a certain point, it needs to come directive on how to report and how to collect the data on waste. It's confusing.
Yeah, and we have also seen from our customers that the direct feedback to the person who's sorting the waste, like you mentioned earlier, it makes it so much more impactful, and then it's easier to engage with the citizens or the users of the building when they can see the actions of their impact. So you need better quality than that, and I think we all need to start demanding better quality data.
Yeah. When we introduce WasteTracker to users, I usually do a presentation where I show the local data. In your city, you produce this much, and I try to find some, interesting comparisons. So, for example, for Warsaw, where I live, the statistics is that city produces 800,000 tons of waste a year, and that's 3 times a way of Palace of Culture and Science, which is our landmark tower. And that visualizes in, the volume, but it also in the weight to people how much that is. And then I say how much we grew over the last 40 years because our lifestyle has changed. What is the sad statistic to come? But also how much trash trucks drive around Warsaw. There is a statistic that say every month, all trash trucks around Warsaw drive the distance between the Earth and the Moon to collect the waste we produce. And that puts a responsibility on us that it should not be this way.
Yeah, and that's a lot of emissions, that's a lot of work, all the air quality issues that comes out of it. And some of the cities we have worked with, they have, for example, reduced the cycles of residual waste collection from being collected every day or almost every day to being collected once every 2 weeks because there's just no more need anymore because other streams are collected much more efficiently. And that came from the very big change that the person in the house or in the municipality would know how much am I producing. And it was like a game-changing thing that they thought that they would never be able to achieve because they thought, oh yeah, people don't have awareness about these things, they are not interested, but all of a sudden it's happening and it's citywide.
Yes.
Really.
I think there is a big difference between also people that live in apartment buildings and they put their waste to the common bin and they don't see their own impact, and without feeling it and measuring it, like you just feel, oh, I had just this little much, yeah. But when you live in a house and you have your own bins that are collected just once a month and you see that sometimes you're overflowing, then it wakes you up. Like, how did I produce that much? And if we don't have what you're showing now, the screenshot of like really understanding, because from business perspective, it's really different mindset, yeah, or from the city perspective, it's working on big data. We won't be able to do anything, or we'll be pretending that we're doing something and we still don't know if it impacted us or not.
Great. There's also a question in the chat about your scope, like which countries can you serve WasteTracker to? Is it the whole of Europe, the whole of world, EU, a few countries? Where do you operate?
So we are basically a European company with European target today. We are thinking about United States, but this is definitely not the time yet for us. Europe has the best thinking on ESG today because it's structured across the reporting and businesses, and everyone is like really getting the feel of what to do. But definitely the world is the mission, yeah.
Yeah. What about the costs of the solution? Can you explain a bit like how big of an investment are we talking about?
So getting one terminal is shy of 6,000 euros, basically including the transportation, installation, trainings, all the communication preparation, we call it onboarding. And then on top of that, there is a software as a service fee to maintain the software, to get the new updates as we grow and have the support from our team, and that's shy of 1 euro cent per square meter. For big buildings, there is a discount, the size discount. For small buildings, there is a minimum fee of 80 euro.
Great. Very detailed information. I hope everybody managed to note this down or watch the recording after if you are interested. And do you just have one size of the scale or several options?
Yeah, we have a smaller scale, 50 by 60, in case of some specific other needs. Happy to accommodate. We see that because mostly we work with bigger buildings that have multi-tenants and like, shopping mall that have 60 stores. They bring just bigger waste. Yeah, they have a big box filled with paper instead of bringing a small. So we found that the size 80 by 80 is best for quick registration. But we have a smaller 50 by 60 in some locations that are smaller buildings. In case there would be a need, we're happy to propose something different, yeah, or bigger or smaller.
Good. So we have spent some time talking about like gathering data, managing data, using it to our benefit. And there is more regulations coming with the Green Claims Directive. It's not going to be so easy anymore to just talk about things, report things that are maybe not so credible. And there's already in place or voted in the European Union the Enabling Consumers for the Green Transition Act, which in a nutshell prohibits greenwashing. And then the Green Claims Directive is still coming, telling us the rules on how to do it properly so that it's not greenwashing. So how can data transparency improve the trust with stakeholders? These directives are a good starting point, but is there anything else that you would like to share with us about this topic?
I think one of the main scare of big businesses now is to like claim something and then be called on that. The brand perception is huge risk, yes, and if like every ESG person that needs to find data and needs to propose solution for the company and how to be better and how to show that we're progressing with ESG is like really risk averse in terms of, yeah, we cannot say this if there's now backing on us. And soon there will be audits, yes, and some companies are already audited on their ESG reporting. Just as financial report of the annual financial report needs to be audited by some external consultant and proved, signed that they have reviewed it and this data it's not a lie. The same is with ESG, yes, because those reports are going to the stock market and investors are taking decisions based on ESG data of companies to work with someone, invest in them or merge with them and so on. And I feel like waste kind of been forgotten part. You know, everyone focused for a long time on energy efficiency and the transportation and how they're, you know, working with suppliers. And there will be some big waste scandals coming out, definitely. Like the same as sourcing. I put a picture with a child in a landfill because I think it comes very much together. Like as there were some scandals that child labor was used by some companies to produce clothing, there will be a huge scandal of sending your waste to places that are in danger, that are using children to clean them or things like that.
Yeah, and it's happening all the time. We Europeans, we have a bad habit of first over-consuming natural resources and then sending our waste to countries that don't have the infrastructure to manage it properly,
Yeah.
because we don't have the capacity to manage our own waste within the European borders. And I think that's embarrassing for us, trying to be front runners in many places. And I think like waste reduction is the easiest way to overcome the problem and come within the
Yeah,
capacity of the planet, but also with our own infrastructure.
exactly.
And yeah, I'm very happy at least to see that waste is becoming the new energy or the new climate impacts, because green, like the carbon tunnel vision, is has been quite strong recently, and I think the whole thing is shifting a bit to a broader scope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So then there's regulations, but then there's also frameworks which are either mandatory, like the CSRD will be soon, or the ESG, which is kind of not mandatory but almost mandatory by the investor pressure. How do you see the waste management fitting into these systems? Like, what's going to happen when big corporations start reporting on the CSRD directive or ESG?
That will create a, I would say, snowball effect. We see that the biggest companies that were reporting are already becoming huge ambassadors of different things. We have one kind of client. They're not our client, they're our user, yes, because our client is the property owner, but they are our receiver. They're registering waste and they're using our analytics. And they quickly came to a realization that they need it all over their locations. And I think the main implication will be people will be like really understanding that waste is a thing, and the scale of sharing those ideas will be bigger, because coming back to big companies like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, which I know don't have much funds here in terms of talking about zero waste, but their understanding of what they're doing and their impact, now they have to report it, they need to disclose it, and they need to think of new solutions. If one person in Coca-Cola finds a new way to reduce the waste that they produce to the world, it's not going to be the local idea. It's going to spread among all factories of Coca-Cola, because they feel the pressure from everywhere that they need to comply more with ESG. Yeah. And that will be among all of the companies. So if there is a huge consulting company that in one office they realize they want to go towards zero waste, they will do the proof of concept in this one office, and then it will go and spread across.
Yeah. Hopefully we see more things like good examples sprouting, because especially if you need to report on things, it's nicer to report on good data and good results rather than the embarrassing things that you would
Exactly.
preferably like to hide from.
Yes.
System.
And I come from real estate world, so I also look at the laws that's being put towards landlords and property owners. Basically, the goal is to be zero emission, by 2050. So their decarbonization paths are really around whole portfolio of buildings. They're not only looking, this building is old, it might consume too much energy, it might produce too much waste. What do we do with it? It's like, no, we need to do it across all our portfolio, because we report up and our investors are looking for it. Otherwise we're not going to have access to money to fund new projects and so on. So I think we're living in very interesting times that it's very helpful for actually putting the mission you guys have with zero waste and making the world a better place finally.
Good. Have you already seen this happening somewhere? Like, would there be a good example where this ripple effect or expansion is already happening?
I see by the decisions that our clients do. Yes, like we start a conversation, they're like, okay, maybe we install WasteTracker in one building, we see how what data we get and so on. And then they come back and be like, we should do whole portfolio because we will need it anyways, so why to waste time? And that's a proof that it's really scaling. The same is with our users. Yes, they're coming back and say, hey, we have WasteTracker in one building of ours. We really enjoy that we have clarity of data on waste. How can we get WasteTracker in other locations? So we have one system for this scope of data for our ESG.
Yeah, we see the same kind of good kind of spying and inspiration from others, that if a city makes a zero waste commitment, normally the neighboring cities start looking into it like, hey, what are they doing? And it's a weird race that everybody wants to be a pioneer, but not quite the first one. So having this very concrete example where you can see the it will be.
I think the same will be happening with certification, with zero waste certification. Like one building will do it, then all the buildings will have to do it. They will feel the pressure that if you don't do it, you're not considered sustainable enough.
Yeah, I think that's the way forward, especially when the Green Claims Directive enters into force, and it will clear out lots of the less ambitious certifications out of the way, because now there is a lot of competition with poor quality. So it's hard to be ambitious at that time when all the certifications are deemed equal by the customers of the customers. But yeah, that will hopefully change
Yes.
in the future. Then how do you see her? Please.
Just like one piece of advice to whoever's with us, it's worth to look around in your local market and find this company that likes to be considered kind of pioneer. Like they send press releases saying that they implemented this and that they're testing artificial intelligence for energy consumption, that they put some smart solution in their location, their shopping mall or office building, because those are usually the ones who are willing to risk and go through the process, pay for it, even though it's unknown. Yeah. And then they become big ambassadors because they love sending press releases. So whoever's in press more often, that's probably a good potential customer to work with.
Yeah. So how do you see, what's the role of WasteTracker in all of this reporting? Like how far can you get in your mandatory reporting with WasteTracker?
I think pretty far, because basically if we integrate to external ESG reporting systems, this can be fully automated for a client. Yeah, it's registered in the in the waste room, and the data is visualized in our system, but also can be in external systems, ESG reporting, and basically uploaded there automatically. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible for all the user types we have.
Yeah. What about then the Green Claims Directive? Can WasteTracker help with green claims?
I'm not sure, but I think it's definitely your source of data. Yes, your proof that you really decreased something. You can show where was your starting point and how far did you get. We don't keep a track of actions you took, but maybe we could. Kind of idea now to then like see, like I took this action, it started 1st of September, and monitor the success of it. Yeah. If anyone has some ideas of how we could show our data to really help others understand their waste production, what they can do, and how they're impacting the world, and so on, I'm super open to anyone's feedback, ideas, and to work together.
Yeah, please feel free to drop your ideas on this topic in the chat, for example, also for others to see, because we have waste experts here in this webinar, so I think we can share wisdoms and good practices, and also needs for data or improved measurement, because I'm sure WasteTracker has ears fully open to listen improvement ideas.
Absolutely.
And of course, like WasteTracker produces the data and the good quality measurements, and then we at the Mission Share Academy, we have the actions to go with it. So it's kind of, we show what to do, and WasteTracker tells if it was good or bad or a good idea. So I think that's where we complement each other very well, and then the data or the results can also be audited and be good quality and comply also with the regulations. There is a question in the chat about the costs. Can you repeat them one more time?
It's 5,980 euro per one terminal, plus 0.008 euro per square meter of the building monthly. I've put it on the chat. I don't know if it's clear.
Yeah, we will share the brochure of WasteTracker with everybody afterwards via email, so you can have information and links and everything you need to look more into it. If all of this sounded good to you, yeah, there's more information coming up, and of course, feel free to contact Renata and her team with further questions. But now, do you have any questions in the audience? Now we have still a good amount of time to address any kind of questions you want to ask about data, measuring, how to improve performance based on good quality measurements.
I see that Lucero also comment on chat that in France, the garbage collection trackers are weighted at the entrance of the treatment. It's also a typical solution for big production plants or warehouses. They weigh not only the waste, but they weigh everything that comes in and comes out. So they understand like how much material came, how much product they send out, and waste, it's one of the things. The challenge of it is that we don't understand the source, because one truck collected from different buildings, from different locations. So it's good for the city level, but it's not good enough for the ones that produce it and want to do something with it. Yeah.
Yeah, very important to intercept a bit earlier, and even in a large building, like we can imagine a shopping center where the waste comes from different companies. When it's in the bin, it's in the bin, and nobody knows where it came from. So even then, it's important to intercept it before it enters the bin. And I think that the scale and the software attached to it is very powerful, because you can do it in a quite simple way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, And it's pretty typical that we find differences in terms of waste production between different companies in a building. There will be companies that like really overproduce, they overflow, and then there are some that are really good. And if they don't have this knowledge that they are way, way worse than others, they don't understand that maybe they should do something.
Yeah, and I think not having the awareness of the neighbors are doing is part of the problem, that they even think that we are doing great, but then showing what the neighbors are doing maybe right uh,
Yes.
is something. And of course, in some locations, like if we imagine the hospitality sector, there might be a large turnover of staff, and
Mm-hmm.
and now you need to source your staff from different places, from different cultures, and they just don't know, and they're very busy as well. They come for the
Mm-hmm.
season; it's hectic, so it's hard to do the right thing. So having this feedback immediately back to you, I think it helps the managers of the big
Mm-hmm.
staff to do the right thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, any any final questions? Now there is still time to type more questions in the Q&A box. There is a comment in the chat that waste weighing is very intriguing, but it's hard for the municipalities, and how to tax it, how to make
Yes,
money and things like that. So very complicated topic as well.
extremely.
But I think also with
Extremely.
like identifiable data going back to the source, it helps with the waste fees being fair, because if you produce
Mm-hmm.
less waste and you separate it well, you should be rewarded for it. And then the ones who don't want to do it for whatever reason, they could have the
Mm-hmm.
payment for it, and that's how it makes it fair. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, it's hard to
Uh,
make.
just a practical joke at the end. The only part that is really worrying about taxes, fees is individual human in the city. From business perspective, it's not about the fees. It's about the image of the company. It's about doing something a better way, showing that we have sustainability in heart and we really, really deliver on it. And I think it like if we think of how individuals consume and how individuals put to waste bin, it's really sometimes not a choice of individual, it's this choice of big business. Because I don't want to call out names, but let's do it. Lidl is packing their meat in individual plastic trays and selling this way, and it's way cheaper than going to a butcher. This is, some individuals don't have this choice. So it's like, what do I do? Yeah, I don't eat because it's in a plastic box. If I cannot afford or find other offer. So if we push more on business and have them being accountable, but not necessarily from the paying for waste, but paying for their business situation, how they're perceived, and further all the fees and fines will come.
Um, so WasteTracker has been around for a while already. Can you explain a bit, like what have you already improved in the system based on the feedback what you have got? Because it's already obvious from this discussion that you know kind of what companies or
Yeah.
businesses are interested in. So what have you developed so far to make it more usable and customer friendly? And
Mm-hmm.
do you have any plans also for future developments?
Yes, so we added, for example, mobile identification. So you can use Apple Wallet card instead of plastic card to identify yourself at the device. We added the possibility of the pie chart to understand the percentage for each stream. Previously, we had it like, different visualize. We have changed the possibility for every business to manage their own cleaning personnel in the system. The first idea was that property managers, so someone who manages the whole building, will create their accounts. And we're now working on benchmarks and we're working on a portfolio view for occupiers. So if you're a IT company and you have WasteTracker in 3 offices across Poland, Europe, whatsoever, then you can see the differences between those sites and understand, like, per square meter in Berlin, I produce this, and in Warsaw this, and in Madrid this. And then you can see which office is the best and maybe use the practices from that office to share among others.
Yeah, I think the comparison also makes it possible for these larger multi-brand companies to compare with each other, maybe incentivize the different branches to do better, because you create kind of like a positive competition, even if you can compare buildings between each other. If there's still any more questions, the chat is still open, and while we wait for the final questions to come in, can you explain still, like, how many waste streams, or can you customize kind of like what waste streams you are tracking? Because you mentioned earlier about the Tetra Pak, which is sorted separately somewhere else. Which ones are the options at the moment, or is it unlimited? How does it work?
Basically, it's unlimited. On one screen, we can show 12 waste streams to comfortably accommodate them. If there is more, you can like swipe and get more. You can manage the waste in the system by adding new types and adding the carbon footprint factor for each stream. So the reporting is streamlined and showing straight away in carbon footprint. You don't need to do your own calculations. Basically, you can change the color. So if your bin is not that brown for bio, but it's, I don't know, white for some reason, you can change it so it fully reflects the site conditions.
Yeah, so very customizable, understanding that even with all the European legislation, we are not so harmonized in the end of the day on a company level or municipal or country levels.
Yeah.
Would you have?
We don't have any municipality weighting their waste with us. So if anyone is working with some municipality that would like to be the first case study of taking it on themselves and measuring how much waste they produce in their city hall, in the hospital, and whatsoever, we're happy to run on some such project, maybe with like some special discounts to do, you know, a good showcase that this is also good idea for public entities.
Yeah. What about, you mentioned a bit earlier the baselines or the sectoral level data. How far are you in that development, and are you going to share the baselines with others to be able to measure, or to get this understanding of, am I better than my neighbor or not?
So everyone in the system will see their own positioning in terms of, you know, am I better or not? I see it similarly as energy classes. So are you A, B, C, D, E, F compared to with your business? But also I envision that after we grow and we are, you know, in over hundreds of buildings, we can prepare open reports to show business how much waste is produced in office buildings, in shopping malls, in hotels, in other asset classes like student housing, per square meter, per user, and so on, and what are the good practices. So, you know, build the awareness, yeah, what companies did. And I hope that together with Mission Zero Academy, if we have good examples and they certify themselves and they can claim their zero waste business or zero waste building, then we can together showcase them and help them with getting, you know, this brand awareness as a good company.
Yeah, I think this is what inspires me the most, is that we can implement actions and then immediately we can see the results. So it's going to be much easier for us to communicate the impact of the different actions, because it has been done several times before, but the data has not been that like centralized on our end before. I think with this we can start like capturing the impact of different actions, certain waste streams.
I'm excited about it too, like to have really those showcases that show simply by taking waste bins from under every employee's office desk and putting one big sorting place in the office so people have to walk and put in a correct bin has helped to change the segregation rate from this to this. Yeah.
Yeah, we have done it even in hotels. You remove the bins
Yeah.
from the recycling station on the corridor, and all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden the recycling rate goes through the roof. And
Yes.
it's a scary action to do if you're a hotel manager, but somehow the results are just astonishing every single time. So
Yes. I remember we started to talk about like really how WasteTracker can help businesses to do the transformation. And I went for a short weekend trip to Slovenia, to Lake Bled. And I enter hotel and they tell me that if I bring any waste from restaurant, like packed rest of my meal, they will charge me 50 extra euros for cleaning it. And I was shocked at first. I was like, how can you tell me what I can and cannot do? And then I was like, this is so clever. This is so clever. It's incentivizing different thinking, especially when you're a tourist. And it's straight away in your face. And sorry, but we need it because there's so much information, content. Like we cannot be experts in everything. We need straightforward information, like what are you doing wrong and how can you be better?
yeah, I think communication needs to go with all of these, like data or actions. It doesn't do anything unless there's good communication and nice, impactful communication to go with it. Do you have any final points that you would like to share with our audience? Like any tips on how to get started on like measurements or improving data quality and transformation?
Say it again for the.
Yeah, would
I see
you?
some questions on chat. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, do you have? Ah, there is some. So, would you have any tips for the audience on like how to improve data quality and data measurement? If they go now back to their working desk, like what would be the first actions to do?
Um, I would say be brave to tell your client that they need a long-term solution that they will be measuring what they are. That it's not only that consultant comes for 2 days to the site and does some measurement and then comes again in 6 months or something like that, because it's not sustainable both from your work and from the client. It's the same as in buildings, for example, air quality is measured. There comes an audit once a year, is air quality. It doesn't give a landlord or a user any knowledge if at some days it's like really too stuffy, humidity goes down or up, what are the temperature reactions to the sun putting or moving around the building. So you cannot really take good actions if you have those measurements spread. And yeah, I think just being bold and telling them like, this is not 18th century anymore. You need a digital solution. And the other part is some people are afraid to be first, as you said, not necessarily wants to do but there is a huge group. It's called early adopters. It's approximately 13.5% of our population. And these people love to be first. So if you're on a meeting and someone asks you, have you done this before? Is this already in this country? You can bravely say, no. That's why you have a chance to be the first and to be ambassador and promote yourself for being courageous for implementing innovation. And you will see by the reaction. I usually, because I work with innovation for about 15 years now, I usually focus on early adopters. I feel like I'm wasting time to talk to people who are just like against new things because it will take me 2 years to convince them to do a pilot. With an early adopter, get them on a pilot within weeks, and then they will help me spread the news. So those ones that are late in the game, they will hear it from everyone else and they will come and knock at my door and say, hey, can we work together? And that's okay because people are different and we should respect that.
Good. There is some questions in the chat. Quite interesting one about recyclable waste. So what we have already, yeah, sorted correctly, because I think many people are fixated on separating waste well, and that's kind of the end of the problem. But of course, like
Yeah.
our overconsumption is a big part of the problem, that we should kind of like make the pie even smaller and not just like spread it more evenly. And of course, there's the problem that not all waste is recyclable, even if we sort it correctly. So, do you think that better measurement or WasteTracker as a solution has potential to reduce also the waste that we actually do sort correctly?
Yeah, mostly. So we always say that separation is really your last chance, but you should start with refusing, reducing, reusing, and it's I don't think it's that hard to get people on board and understand, and having data and just like even starting the conversation saying, 500 kilograms per person in everything. 500 kilograms. That's like 5 times you. Yeah, it's a lot. It's really a lot.
Yeah.
And if you get to understand that, if we continue living like that, like most of us understand how the world has transformed last 40 years. We consume in different way, we travel way more, we're more reckless, we live in a fast world, and we don't have time for certain things. I think it became easier for us. Products are designed to be easier for us, and it's not going good. If we don't change anything, World Bank predicts that by 2050 we'll have more plastic than fish in the ocean. And is that the planet that we want to leave for future generation? Have you been fishing when you were a child? That's also always what I ask. Do you want your future children and your future grandchildren to be able to experience that? To go to the forest for mushroom picking and not collect waste in the forest? It's I think more and more people are like really wanting to do something, and they more need tools. So, short conversation about sense of urgency, then showing how tools can help. And if you understand how much, then you get to learn from others also what to do to reduce.
Yeah. And I think these comparisons to others might be the change. And of course, like the nice looking pie where the landfill or incinerated waste is small, like it's a nice start, but I think the communication needs to go with it, that this
Yeah.
this is the last chance solution, and there's
Mhm.
steps you can take before hand, and yeah, comparing that to others might be the key. And the second thing, in some sectors, like we can imagine, for example, the restaurant sector, food waste for them, it's money in the bin. So
Mhm.
I think with these kind of examples, we can really drive home the point that recycling is not enough, and there needs to be a few steps done before. Then there's a few other questions in the chat about waste in public areas like the street. Um, is WasteTracker a solution for those kind of places, or is it more on like household or like a closed building area solution?
So we have designed WasteTracker with mind of real estate. So how to measure waste production in buildings, especially when they are different type of users. It's not necessarily something you buy for your own home to do so, yeah, to measure. But yeah, I would say we might grow in different directions, but today we focus only on bigger real estate. I see that, like just thinking of this gas meter, with the slot mechanism, like things have changed so much, and this is just the beginning. We need to start somewhere. We need to start capturing data, getting some sense, and the rest will follow. Every innovation opens the idea for the next. Yeah, if it would not be for an iPhone, we would not have so many apps and so many different solutions that, raised after that. If we would not have internet, we would not have iPhone, yeah? Because why would you need such device if you could only call from your phone?
So without the gas meter, we would not have WasteTracker today.
Exactly.
Right. And yeah, of course, like the street waste, so the bin on the bus stop and things like that,
Mhm.
it's a very challenging waste stream to eliminate or even get sorted for like
Yes.
anybody, because there is like zero accountability. You walk past,
Yes.
you drop the waste, and you're gone, and
Mhm.
nobody will know what you did or didn't do. So
Yes.
it's a challenge for all the municipalities that we have worked with to do something with it. There's been improvements, but maybe not revolutions yet that we know of. Then this,
But you know, in Japan, everyone takes accountability for their own waste. Yeah, it's part of the transformation that if you are aware that this is actually a problem and you start taking your own responsibility, it will help change. I don't see such huge change that the place is super dirty if there are no trash bins. Like people will walk with it until they find one.
yeah, and that has actually been one of the solutions to remove the waste bin because it's the bin that kind of collects the problem. We had a change in Finland in some of the national parks in the very, very north, where there is almost no people but a lot of hikers, and they removed the waste bins because they were creating problems in the middle of nowhere, and they had low hopes of anything changing or like just illegal dump sites turning up in the tundra, but all of a sudden there was no waste in the tundra anymore because everybody brought it back. And that was the lack of the waste bin that did it, and not putting a second waste bin there to collect what was overflowing from the first one. So yeah, sometimes the bin is the problem, and the people know how to behave when it's not there. Then final question, or also last chance to type more questions. There is about like having data and measuring is one thing, and then having the expertise to do something about it is one step after. But then how about like recycling machines and kind of like the infrastructure to do something about the waste? Do you have any connections to that, or is it more like our job to figure that out when we are the experts on site?
From technology perspective, it's very difficult as you know, every city is different. When I was searching for waste solutions before starting WasteTracker, I saw that there are some, you know, for example, machines that you put whatever and it's AI sorts what it is and what to do with it. It like immediately smashes the plastic, so there is more space and the trash truck doesn't need to go that often. But from infrastructure perspective, it's pretty expensive, and it's, you know, also creating so much additional hardware that also has environmental impact. So it's always a question, you know, how do we force people to fasten their seatbelts? Do we design cars that beep all the time if you don't fasten your seatbelts? Or do we put law that you need to fasten your seatbelts? Or do we educate them? And I think it's the best solution is the mix of all. Yes, because as I said previously, we're different people. So if you're thinking of design thinking and how technology is introduced, like you still need to inform people, they need to understand how it works. And the same is with waste. Like if you would understand more what's happening with your waste, how much you produce it, then this education becomes easier. Yeah, so it overlaps.
Yeah, and I think also having the data, even if it's the situation as one of the examples from the audience that there is like no understanding of the waste situation, having it and then improving it, I think it helps you to match then any infrastructure purchases that you need to make so that you don't accidentally have something that you maybe don't even need at the moment, or you have overcapacity because you didn't understand what you need. So I think like having the full picture, like the baseline, and then waste reduction policies, it makes any kind of waste treatment much cheaper because you have less quantities, you need less capacity, and maybe there's even a solution then to pair with the neighboring companies or municipalities to do it. Like we had one example from Greece. It's a whole island, small island, very touristic, and they had a landfill before, like fully operating, like compliant with the regulations landfill, and they were just using it because it was there and producing a lot of waste. And then when the mayor decided to close the landfill because it was polluting the beaches, waste generation went down by a lot, and their separate collection rate went to 90%. So all of a sudden, they didn't even need the landfill anymore because they had nothing to put there, and then they had like easy options for the tiny amount that was left. So think having that data first and foremost, because they also had an app for all the citizens to know what they're doing, to be able to do the right thing, and all of a sudden the huge needs of infrastructure just disappeared.
Yeah. Imagine if countries would pass the law that you are not allowed to send your waste anywhere else behind your borders.
I think that would make us work harder, and I think that maybe brought a bit of awareness during COVID when the borders were actually closed, how dependent we are of resources that come from very far away, or waste being sent very far away when all of a sudden we not do it very easily.
Yeah.
And of course, there's EU policies on waste trade that are, I think they're in the discussions or even decided already to try and stop it. So at least they would stay within the European borders and not go to third countries, causing trouble there. Any final questions or comments, or you can say just like in the chat, thank you to Renata for all her insights. The app in Greece, the question in the chat is called We Go Zero. So that's how
We Go Zero.
Yes, We Go Zero. And yeah, that's how they did it in Greece. But it was all about bringing the accountability to the people, and the app was again, like you Renat said in the very beginning, the tech is the tool, and the people do the actions, or it needs the actions to go with it, and the app created awareness. So yeah, that was the key there. And yeah, I think WasteTracker is producing similar impacts, but with a different tool. I think we are running out of questions and soon even time, so I think it's time to start thanking the audience. Thank you very much for joining us and also for your active participation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and especially
thank you, Kaisa, for facilitation
no problem.
And your insights.
Yeah, and thank you very much for you, Renata, for your insights and all these good points. And yeah, in the chat there is like lots of compliments for you about the great pieces of wisdom that you have managed to say, and I hope they go home with the audience, and also for everybody who watches this recording after. And we will follow up. The recording will appear on the website of the Mission Zero Academy, and we will follow up with the presentation and also with the brochure of WasteTracker. So if you want to have more information, it's all will be available after this.